The following is a conversation with the New York Times bestselling author Graham Hancock. He's the author of the book America Before: The Key to Earth's Lost Civilization. He's also spoken in several controversial TED events that have since gone viral over the internet. With his appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience and having sold over 7 million copies of his books internationally, he has become an internet sensation as an unconventional thinker. Today, he and I discuss some of those ideas that are said to be controversial, and together at the end of this interview, we come to a conclusion that I'm sure everyone will find fascinating. To see more interviews like this one, click the link below me now to subscribe to Meditation Magazine. As you were alluding to earlier with your work on ancient civilizations, and that there was possibly one that existed that through some cataclysmic event resulted in its destruction. I feel like, well, I should say that there's a lot of religions today that speak about similar things. Like in Buddhism, I speak with a lot of monks. I'm not a self-described Buddhist, but I'm very familiar with the lineage and the religion itself in a lot of ways. And something that I hear very often is that what we're experiencing right now is like the 5th or 6th time that a civilization has risen to power and then has been destroyed. There's been lots of other examples about this, Atlantis being possibly a way of describing the ancient civilization that existed at that time.
To my mind, the Atlantis so-called myth is an extremely interesting one. It's very, very specific. It comes to us from a very credible source, which is the Greek philosopher Plato. That's where the earliest surviving mention of Atlantis is. He puts a date on the destruction of Atlantis, which coincides precisely with what we know was the cataclysmic end of the last ice age. There's a lot of reasons to take Plato very, very seriously on the Atlantis myth, but it's been given such a bad name by mainstream archaeologists and historians for so long that some people still feel silly even saying the word Atlantis and don't actually realize where it comes from, and it comes in the works of Plato in the Timaeus and Critias dialogues. And he is reporting a visit that was made to Egypt by his ancestor, the Greek lawmaker Solon, in 600 BC. And Solon was delivered the story of Atlantis by ancient Egyptian priests. Suddenly this ceases to be an airy-fairy idea and starts to be something that's plugged into some of the great minds of history and prehistory.
And so would you say that with the current circumstances, obviously, I mean, this world is in an incredibly chaotic circumstance right now. But would you say that we are in certain ways standing at the precipice of another major cataclysmic event, such as what these ancient cultures and what these religions that are around today are describing? Would you say that in certain ways, there are many people who have discussed about theories that something could take place, another extinction event of some type. But would you say that we're currently facing something that could turn out very much like what everybody else is saying happened in the past?
What I can say is that when we look at the thousands of myths and traditions, so-called, from all around the world, which speak of the destruction of a former civilization, and there are literally thousands of them. They're usually so-called flood myths, but they come in other forms of cataclysm as well. What you'll find all of those stories have in common is that there was some failing or fall in the civilization concerned, that it ceased to live up to its potential. In the case of Atlantis, Plato tells us, it's a ringing phrase, that the citizens of Atlantis ceased to wear their prosperity with moderation. In other words, they became conceited, big-headed, proud. They began to impose their power around the world. They began to make war on other peoples. And the Atlantis story makes it clear that this is why the universe turned on them. and slap them down. And this is not just the Atlantis story. This is many other traditions and stories of lost civilizations from all around the world. So in mythological terms, I would say we do tick all the boxes for the next lost civilization. We are that conceited, arrogant civilization that is imposing its power all around the world, that thinks it knows everything, that is full of arrogance and pride and cruelty. That is precisely what we don't want to be doing if we want our civilization to continue, at least in the mythological framework. So yeah, I do think we stand at an inflection point. This is a very dangerous time for humanity and for our children and for our children's children. We don't even need a comet to fragment in the inner solar system and bombard the Earth with large bits of it. We're quite capable of destroying ourselves now. And that may be the greatest danger, that we actually become so destructive that we become self-destructive and we wipe ourselves out. And 10 or 20,000 years from now, we'll be remembered as a civilization that achieved great things, but ultimately that failed to realize its own potential, and that descended into darkness and wickedness and was destroyed. This is not inevitable. It's up to us. We can learn the lessons of the past. We can listen to what the myths and traditions say. We can reshape our behavior. We don't have to be so obnoxious and cruel and domineering as we are today. But if we continue down this route, then I have no doubt that a heavy price will be paid for it.